The story of India and Pakistan is one deeply etched with moments of shared history, yet overwhelmingly defined by decades of conflict and mistrust. Since the moment of their birth as independent nations in 1947, a painful partition that split British India along religious lines, the two neighbors have found themselves locked in a seemingly unending cycle of animosity. This is not merely a disagreement between governments. It is a complex tapestry woven from threads of territorial disputes, ideological differences, and the lingering ghosts of past wars. The consequences of this enduring rivalry resonate far beyond their borders, casting a long shadow over regional stability and indeed global peace, a situation that continues to demand our urgent attention even today in May 2025. Understanding this conflict requires a journey back in time, but also a keen observation of the present. The flashpoints are numerous, the grievances on both sides deeply felt. The core issue for many remains the disputed territory of Kashmir, a beautiful land that has tragically become a symbol of intractable strife. But the conflict has evolved, with new dimensions of warfare, including cross-border terrorism, ceasefire violations, and now, increasingly sophisticated missile and drone attacks, adding fresh layers of complexity. The rhetoric is often harsh, diplomatic channels frequently strained, and the prospect of a lasting peace can seem frustratingly distant, almost like a mirage in a vast desert of unresolved issues. The people of both nations, despite the political chasm, share so much: culture, language, traditions. Yet, they are the ones who often bear the heaviest burden of this protracted antagonism. Families are divided, lives are disrupted, and a constant sense of unease pervades the border regions. For generations, communities have lived under the shadow of potential escalation, their daily existence punctuated by the sounds of gunfire or the fear of the unknown. It is their stories, their resilience, and their yearning for normalcy that often get lost amidst the grand narratives of geopolitical strategy and national security concerns, a human cost that cannot be ignored. This essay seeks to unravel the complexities of the India-Pakistan relationship. We will delve into the historical origins of the conflict, examine the critical fault lines like the line of control, and analyze the recent dramatic escalations that have once again brought the region to a dangerous precipice. We will also explore the profound impact on civilian lives, the persistent challenges to achieving peace, and why this particular rivalry between two nuclear-armed states continues to be a matter of grave international concern. The situation is fluid, the stakes are incredibly high, and the need for clarity has never been greater. The genesis of the India-Pakistan conflict is inextricably linked to the tumultuous end of British colonial rule in 1947. The decision to partition the Indian subcontinent into Hindu-majority India and Muslim-majority Pakistan was a cataclysmic event, unleashing unprecedented violence and displacement. Millions were uprooted from their ancestral homes, and estimates suggest that up to 2 million people lost their lives in the communal carnage that ensued. This brutal birth left an indelible scar on the collective psyche of both nations, creating a legacy of bitterness and suspicion that has poisoned relations from the very outset. The very act of division sowed seeds of discord that continue to bear bitter fruit. At the heart of the territorial disputes lies the region of Kashmir. When the British departed, the princely states were given the option to accede to either India or Pakistan. Maharaja Hari Singh, the Hindu ruler of Muslim-majority Kashmir, initially sought independence but eventually acceded to India in October 1947 amidst a tribal invasion backed by Pakistan. This decision immediately triggered the First Indo-Pakistani War. Pakistan has never accepted Kashmir's accession to India, viewing it as an unfinished agenda of the partition. India, on the other hand, considers Kashmir an integral part of its territory. This fundamental disagreement has fueled multiple wars and countless skirmishes over the decades. Beyond Kashmir, other factors have contributed to the enduring hostility. The two nations adopted starkly different political and ideological paths. India emerged as a secular democracy, while Pakistan was founded as an Islamic republic. These differing worldviews have often been a source of friction, influencing their foreign policies and regional ambitions. Furthermore, the trauma of partition led to an arms race almost from day one, with both countries diverting significant resources towards military buildup. This security dilemma, where the defensive measures of one side are perceived as offensive threats by the other, has perpetuated a cycle of mistrust and competitive militarization, making any genuine reconciliation incredibly challenging. The historical narrative itself is contested, with each country teaching its version of events, often demonizing the other. This has created echo chambers where critical self-reflection is rare, and nationalistic fervor frequently trumps calls for peace or compromise. The wars of 1965, 1971, which led to the creation of Bangladesh from East Pakistan, and the 1999 Kargil conflict have further deepened the animosity, adding more layers of grievance and martyrs to be remembered. Each conflict has reinforced pre-existing prejudices and made the path towards normalization even more arduous, embedding the rivalry deep within the national identities of both India and Pakistan. The line of control, or LoC, is the de facto border that divides the Indian-administered part of Kashmir from the Pakistani-administered part. It is not an internationally recognized border, but a ceasefire line that emerged from the 1949 Karachi Agreement following the First Indo-Pakistani War. It was later formalized and renamed the LoC under the Simla Agreement of 1972, an accord signed after the 1971 war. Spanning approximately 740 kilometers, about 460 miles, this heavily militarized demarcation snakes through treacherous mountainous terrain, often unmarked and fiercely contested, making it one of the most dangerous and volatile frontiers in the entire world. The LoC is more than just a line on a map. It is a symbol of the enduring division and the constant state of military preparedness that defines the India-Pakistan relationship. Both sides maintain a heavy military presence, with thousands of troops stationed in close proximity, often within sight and firing range of each other. The landscape is scarred by bunkers, watchtowers, and barbed wire fences. Ceasefire violations are a common occurrence, despite agreements aimed at maintaining peace along this sensitive line. These violations can range from small arms fire and mortar shelling to more significant military engagements, frequently leading to casualties on both sides, including soldiers and civilians. The strategic importance of the LoC cannot be overstated. For India, it represents a line that must be held to prevent infiltration of militants from Pakistani territory, an accusation New Delhi frequently levels against Islamabad. Pakistan, conversely, often accuses India of unprovoked firing on its civilian populations and using the LoC to exert pressure. The terrain itself, with its dense forests and rugged mountains, makes complete surveillance incredibly difficult, providing opportunities for covert movements. This inherent porosity contributes significantly to the persistent instability, as each side remains perpetually wary of the other's intentions and actions across this jagged divide. Efforts to bring lasting peace and stability to the LoC have had limited success. A significant ceasefire was agreed upon in November 2003, which brought a period of relative calm for several years. However, this understanding began to fray around 2008, and violations became increasingly frequent. Another ceasefire was announced in February 2021, raising hopes for de-escalation, but subsequent events, including the recent Pahalgam attack mentioned in reports post-July 2023, have demonstrated the fragility of such agreements. The LoC thus remains a tinderbox, where a minor incident can quickly escalate into a major confrontation, keeping the entire region on edge. The month of May 2025 has witnessed a dramatic and deeply worrying escalation in tensions between India and Pakistan, pushing the two nuclear-armed neighbors perilously close to a wider conflict. On May 9th, a date now seared into the region's recent memory, events unfolded with alarming speed. Pakistan's military made grave allegations, claiming that India had launched attacks on 3 of its air bases using air-to-surface missiles. While Pakistan asserted that its assets remained safe, it also reported an Indian ballistic missile attack targeting the Noor Khan airbase near Islamabad, which it stated was successfully intercepted. In a swift retaliatory measure, Pakistan closed its airspace, signaling the severity of the crisis. India, however, presented a starkly different narrative of the events that transpired on that tense Friday. The Indian Defense Ministry reported an armed drone attack originating from Pakistan, which struck Firozapur in the Indian state of Punjab, resulting in civilian injuries. This incident, according to New Delhi, was a clear act of aggression. The conflicting accounts and mutual recriminations immediately set the stage for a dangerous blame game. The international community watched with bated breath as accusations flew thick and fast, each side vehemently denying the other's claims while asserting its own version of victimhood and justified response. The situation on the ground appeared to corroborate the escalating crisis. Reports emerged of 4 significant blasts heard in Amritsar, another city in Indian Punjab situated close to the Pakistani border. Simultaneously, multiple explosions were reported for a second consecutive day in Jammu city, located in Indian-administered Kashmir. Eyewitnesses in Jammu spoke of seeing projectiles in the sky following a blackout, painting a picture of a region under duress and facing direct military action. These incidents, occurring in quick succession, underscored the reality that the conflict was no longer confined to remote border posts, but was reaching populated areas, significantly raising the stakes. The diplomatic fallout was immediate and sharp. Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri publicly condemned Pakistan's denial of launching its own drone and missile attacks as farcical. This strong language from a top diplomat indicated the depth of anger and distrust within the Indian government. The term spiraling tensions began to feature prominently in media reports and diplomatic briefings, accurately capturing the rapid deterioration of an already fragile security environment. The events of May 9, 2025, have thus become a critical reference point, highlighting the ever-present danger of swift escalation in this historically volatile relationship, demanding urgent de-escalation efforts. The dramatic missile and drone exchanges of May 2025 did not occur in a vacuum. They were preceded and accompanied by a series of military and strategic moves that indicated rising temperatures well before the actual strikes. One such event mentioned in recent security assessments is Operation Sindoor, an Indian military operation reportedly targeting terror infrastructure. While specific details and dates of this operation remain somewhat guarded, its mention in the context of recent escalations suggests a proactive and assertive military posture adopted by India in response to perceived threats, likely contributing to the heightened state of alert on both sides of the border. Further evidence of the escalating strategic concerns came with India's decision to postpone Operation Shield. This was intended to be a nationwide mock drill, with significant components planned near the sensitive Pakistan border. The official reason cited for this postponement in May 2025 was the rising tensions not only on the Western Front with Pakistan, but also concerns brewing on India's eastern border with Bangladesh. This decision highlights the complex security calculus for India, managing multiple potential flashpoints simultaneously and choosing to avoid any action, even a drill, that could be misconstrued or further inflame an already volatile situation with Pakistan. The repercussions of earlier incidents also continue to fuel the current crisis. A significant attack in Pahalgam, Indian-administered Kashmir, which occurred sometime after July 2023, had already triggered renewed conflict along the line of control. This attack led to casualties and damage to infrastructure, prompting a severe response from India, the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty. This treaty, a long-standing water-sharing agreement, had survived previous conflicts, and its suspension marked a serious escalation. Pakistan in turn reacted strongly, threatening to withdraw from the 1972 Simla Agreement, a foundational pact for bilateral relations, thereby signaling a potential unraveling of decades-old diplomatic frameworks. Adding another layer to India's strategic anxieties are developments on its eastern flank. Reports indicated that China was allegedly involved in upgrading the Lalmanirat airbase in Bangladesh, a development viewed with considerable concern in New Delhi. India responded by reviving its own Kailashaha airfield in Tripura, near the Bangladesh border. While not directly linked to Pakistan, these eastern border concerns contribute to India's overall security posture and resource allocation, indirectly impacting its strategic bandwidth and potentially its threshold for tolerating provocations on the western border. The entire subcontinent appears to be a chessboard of complex strategic plays. Beyond the strategic posturing and military exchanges, the most heart-wrenching aspect of the India-Pakistan conflict is its devastating impact on ordinary civilians residing in the border regions. These are communities that live under a constant shadow of fear, their lives perpetually hostage to the volatile relationship between the two nations. The recent drone attack on May 9, 2025 in Firozapur, Punjab, which resulted in civilian injuries, is a stark reminder that when tensions flare, it is innocent people who often pay the immediate price. Their homes, their livelihoods, and their very sense of security are shattered by forces far beyond their control. For those living along the line of control and the international border, the sound of gunfire, shelling, and now the terrifying buzz of drones or the roar of missiles can become an unwelcome part of their daily existence. Schools are frequently closed, forcing children to abandon their education. Farmers are unable to tend to their fields, which often lie dangerously close to the firing line, leading to a loss of livelihood and economic hardship. Displacement is a recurring trauma, with families forced to flee their homes at a moment's notice, seeking refuge in safer areas, often in cramped and inadequate temporary shelters, unsure when or if they will be able to return. The psychological toll on these border communities is immense, though often unquantified. The constant anxiety, the fear of losing loved ones, the trauma of witnessing violence, and the uncertainty of the future can lead to long-term mental health issues. Children grow up internalizing this atmosphere of conflict, their childhoods marred by insecurity. The fabric of social life is disrupted as community gatherings become risky and normal routines are abandoned. These are the invisible scars of the conflict, borne by generations who have known little else but the simmering tension and the ever-present threat of escalation just beyond their doorsteps. Moreover, the conflict creates physical barriers that divide families and communities that once shared close ties. Relatives living on opposite sides of the border find it incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to meet, even for significant family events like weddings or funerals. The stringent visa regimes and the closure of border crossings during periods of high tension further exacerbate this human tragedy. The dreams of ordinary people for peace, for a chance to live a normal life, and for their children to have a better future are tragically caught in the crossfire of geopolitical rivalries, a poignant reminder of the real-world consequences of this enduring enmity. The quest for lasting peace between India and Pakistan has been a long and arduous journey, marked by fleeting moments of hope, followed by disheartening setbacks. Numerous attempts at dialogue and confidence-building measures have been initiated over the decades, but they have consistently struggled to overcome the deep-rooted distrust and the complex web of contentious issues that define the relationship. One of the primary obstacles is the very different, often irreconcilable national narratives each country holds regarding the core disputes, particularly Kashmir. Without some common ground or a willingness to shift entrenched positions, meaningful progress remains exceptionally difficult to achieve. Ceasefire agreements, while offering temporary respite, have proven to be fragile. The 2003 ceasefire along the line of control, for instance, brought a significant reduction in hostilities for several years, allowing a semblance of normalcy to return to border areas. However, it gradually eroded, and by 2008, violations had begun to escalate once more. More recently, a renewed commitment to the ceasefire was announced in February 2021, which was widely welcomed. Yet, as events like the Pahalgam attack and the dramatic escalations of May 2025 demonstrate, such agreements can be quickly undermined by on-ground incidents or shifting political calculations, plunging relations back into crisis. Internal political compulsions within both countries also play a significant role in hindering peace efforts. Hardline factions on both sides often oppose any concessions, and governments can find it politically risky to appear too conciliatory towards the enemy. Cross-border terrorism remains a major stumbling block, with India consistently accusing Pakistan of supporting militant groups that launch attacks on Indian soil. Pakistan denies these allegations, often countering with its own claims of Indian interference. This cycle of accusation and counter-accusation creates an environment where building trust, a prerequisite for any successful peace process, becomes almost impossible. The failure of a promising peace initiative between 2004 and 2007, which even explored making the line of control a soft border, underscores these challenges. Furthermore, the involvement of external actors and broader geopolitical shifts can influence the dynamics between India and Pakistan, sometimes complicating peace efforts. The strategic calculations of global powers, regional alliances, and the evolving security landscape all have an impact. For any peace process to gain traction and be sustainable, it requires not only unwavering commitment from the leadership in New Delhi and Islamabad, but also a conducive regional and international environment. Until there is a fundamental shift in perceptions and a genuine willingness to address the core issues through sustained and sincere dialogue, the path to peace will, regrettably, remain fraught with obstacles. The most alarming aspect of the India-Pakistan conflict, and the one that commands sustained international attention, is the fact that both nations are nuclear powers. India conducted its first nuclear test in 1974 and declared itself a nuclear weapon state after a series of tests in 1998. Pakistan swiftly followed suit, conducting its own nuclear tests just weeks later in May 1998, explicitly in response to India's actions. This development fundamentally altered the strategic landscape of South Asia, introducing a terrifying new dimension to their already hostile relationship. Any major military confrontation now carries the unthinkable risk of escalating to a nuclear exchange. This nuclear overhang means that every crisis, every significant border skirmish, and every military escalation is viewed with heightened concern by the global community. The fear is that a conventional war could spiral out of control, potentially leading one or both sides, in a moment of desperation or miscalculation, to resort to the use of nuclear weapons. The consequences of such an event would be catastrophic, not only for India and Pakistan, causing millions of deaths and widespread destruction, but also for the wider world, potentially leading to a nuclear winter with devastating global environmental and climatic effects. This shared vulnerability has, paradoxically, sometimes acted as a deterrent against all-out war, but it also raises the stakes immeasurably during periods of high tension. Both countries maintain a policy of credible minimum deterrence, but the specifics of their nuclear doctrines and command and control structures are subjects of intense scrutiny and some anxiety. The lack of direct communication channels during acute crises or the potential for misinterpretation of intentions adds to the risk. While various confidence-building measures related to nuclear issues have been discussed or implemented in the past, such as pre-notification of missile tests, the overall atmosphere of distrust means that these measures are often seen as insufficient to fully mitigate the dangers. The recent missile attacks in May 2025, with Pakistan claiming to have intercepted a ballistic missile, bring these fears into sharp focus once again. The international community, particularly the United States, China, and Russia, frequently calls for restraint and dialogue whenever tensions flare between New Delhi and Islamabad. There is a strong global interest in preventing the outbreak of a conflict that could have such devastating and far-reaching consequences. The presence of nuclear weapons means that the India-Pakistan rivalry is not just a regional problem, it is a matter of global security. Ensuring strategic stability in South Asia and preventing nuclear escalation remains a critical challenge for international diplomacy, demanding constant vigilance and proactive engagement to manage this perilous situation. The enduring conflict between India and Pakistan is far more than a bilateral dispute. Its reverberations are felt across the globe, making it a critical flashpoint with profound international implications. The sheer demographic and economic weight of the two nations combined, they represent nearly a fifth of humanity, means that any instability in this region has significant consequences for global markets, supply chains, and international affairs. Peace and stability between India and Pakistan are not just desirable for these countries, but essential for broader global prosperity and security. The strategic location of India and Pakistan at the crossroads of South Asia, Central Asia, and the Middle East further amplifies the global importance of their relationship. The region is a hub of vital trade routes and energy corridors. Persistent conflict can disrupt these flows, impact energy security, and create an environment conducive to extremism and instability, which can spill over into neighboring regions and beyond. Major world powers have significant strategic interests in South Asia, from counter-terrorism efforts to balancing regional influences, and the India-Pakistan dynamic is central to all these calculations. Furthermore, the risk of nuclear escalation elevates the India-Pakistan conflict to paramount concern for global security. A nuclear exchange in South Asia would be an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe with dire environmental consequences that would respect no borders. The international community focuses on crisis management and de-escalation, urging both sides to exercise restraint and seek diplomatic solutions. The potential for miscalculation or accidental war between two nuclear-armed states keeps defense analysts and policymakers awake at night across world capitals. Understanding this conflict is crucial for citizens around the world because it offers vital lessons about post-colonial nation building, the dangers of unresolved territorial disputes, the devastating human cost of protracted enmity, and the immense challenges of achieving peace. It underscores the importance of international diplomacy, conflict resolution mechanisms, and the urgent need for dialogue and understanding to prevent regional tensions from boiling over. The future of India and Pakistan is intrinsically linked, and their ability to find peaceful coexistence will significantly shape the 21st century, not just for Asia, but for the entire world.